The email from HR sat unopened in my inbox for 3 hours. I'd been staring at it between batches of laundry, between helping Noah with his math homework, between microwaving leftover mac and cheese that the kids wouldn't touch. My hands trembled as I finally clicked it open. My name is Taya, and exactly 1 year ago today, my husband of 10 years told me he'd found someone who understood him better. Her name was Sophia. She was 29, worked at his office, and apparently understood him so well that he packed his bags that same night. "Mom, Noah took my iPad again." Sadie's voice pierced through my thoughts. "Did not," came the predictable response from downstairs. I minimized the email and took a deep breath. "Both of you, living room now." They trudged in, 8 and 6 years old respectively, wearing matching scowls that reminded me too much of their father. I settled the latest sibling dispute while my phone buzzed with a text from Angela. "Did you open it yet?" she wrote. "About to. Kids fighting again. Girl, this could be your ticket out of retail hell. Read it." She wasn't wrong. The past year had been a blur of part-time jobs, mornings at the coffee shop, evenings at the mall, and late nights teaching myself to code while the kids slept. The coding had started as an escape, something to focus on besides the empty side of the bed and the dwindling bank account. But somewhere between JavaScript tutorials and Stack Overflow searches, I'd found something I was actually good at. "Okay, guys, homework time," I announced, settling them at the kitchen table. 20 minutes, then we'll make dinner." Back at my laptop, I finally read the email from TechFront Solutions. The coding portfolio I'd submitted had caught someone's attention. They wanted an interview. My phone rang. Angela again. "Well?" she demanded. "They want to meet me tomorrow at 2 p.m. "Holy shit, Taya! This is huge!" I glanced at the kids, lowering my voice. "I can't do 2 p.m. I have a shift at the mall." "Call in sick. This is more important than folding sweaters at Gap." "I need that job, Ang. You need a career. Your kids need their mom to stop working herself to death. Call in sick." The truth in her words stung. Last week, I'd missed Sadie's soccer game because of a shift change. Noah had started asking why we couldn't go to the movies like his friends did. "What if I'm not ready?" I whispered. "What if—" "Stop it," Angela cut in. "You're ready. You're more than ready. You've been coding every night for months. Your GitHub looks amazing. Yes, I checked, even though I don't understand half of it. And you know what else?" "What?" "You're 10 times smarter than that asshole who left you for his child bride." I couldn't help but laugh. Sophia's 29. Whatever. Call them all. Take the interview. Show them what you can do. After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the laptop screen. Dark circles under my eyes, hair desperately needing a trim. Weston had looked so satisfied when he'd told me about Sophia, like he was doing me a favor by being honest. "You've let yourself go," he'd said, as if that justified everything. I opened my phone and called my supervisor at the mall. "Janet? Hi, it's Taya. I hate to do this, but I'm not feeling well. Is there any way someone could cover my shift tomorrow afternoon?" The kids looked up from their homework, surprised. Mom never called in sick. After arranging the coverage, I opened my coding projects and started reviewing. The familiar syntax brought a calm I hadn't felt all day. In the code, everything made sense. Everything had a solution. "Mom?" Sadie appeared at my elbow. "Can we have pizza tonight?" I should say no. The budget was tight, and we had perfectly good leftovers. "You know what? Yes, we can have pizza." Their cheers made me smile. I closed my laptop and pulled them both into a hug, breathing in the scent of their shampoo and the lingering sweetness of their afternoon snacks. "Mom's got a big day tomorrow," I told them. "Want to help me pick out what to wear?" As we raided my closet, pulling out the few professional pieces I'd kept from my married life, I felt something shift inside me. The email wasn't just an interview invitation. It was a lifeline, a chance to show my kids, and myself, that rock bottom wasn't our final destination. "This one," Sadie declared, holding up my navy blazer. "You look like a boss in this one." Out of the mouths of babes. "You know what, sweetie? I think you're right." Tell me about your experience with full-stack development, Hugo said, leaning back in his chair. His office overlooked the city, all glass and modern furniture, nothing like the fluorescent-lit mall where I'd spent my mornings. I took a deep breath, remembering Angela's pep talk. I've built several applications from scratch, focusing on React for the front end and Node.js for the back end. My latest project was a scheduling system for small businesses that... I've seen it, he interrupted, tapping his tablet. Clean code, intuitive interface. What interests me is how you learned all this in less than a year. Necessity, I answered honestly. When my husband left, I needed a way out of retail. Coding gave me that focus. Hugo's expression softened slightly. And the determination to learn while raising 2 kids alone? They're my motivation. Every line of code is one step closer to giving them the life they deserve. He nodded, standing up. Welcome to TechFront, Taya. Vivienne will show you around. Just like that, my life changed. Vivienne turned out to be a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and a no-nonsense attitude. First rule, she said as we walked through the open office space. No overtime unless absolutely necessary. We value work-life balance here. I almost laughed. Work-life balance? I've been working 2 jobs and learning to code at midnight. This feels like a vacation. Trust me, it won't for long. We're growing fast, and there are rumors of a major merger. She stopped at an empty desk. This is you. Team meeting in 10 minutes. Ready to dive in? The next few weeks passed in a blur. During the day, I immersed myself in code reviews and development sprints. At night, I helped with homework and tried to maintain some semblance of normal family life. Mom, you look different, Sadie said one evening as I made dinner. Actual home-cooked dinner, not microwaved leftovers. Different how? Happier, she decided, setting the table without being asked. And you're home more. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Angela burst in, waving her phone. Have you seen the news? What news? TechFront is merging with Global Tech. It's all over the business sites. My stomach dropped. Global Tech, Weston's company. Are you sure? Look! She thrust her phone at me. The headline confirmed my worst fear. That night, after the kids were asleep, Angela and I sat on my couch with wine glasses in hand. What are the chances he'll even know you work there, she reasoned. Global Tech is huge. But what if... No what ifs. You've earned this. Besides, she smirked. Wouldn't it be perfect karma if you ended up outranking him? 3 months into my new job, Hugo called me into his office again. Your team's performance has been exceptional, he said without preamble. The merger's creating opportunities, and I'm restructuring the leadership team. How do you feel about taking on more responsibility? I blinked. What kind of responsibility? COO position. You'd oversee technical operations across both companies post-merger. My heart stopped. That would mean... Yes, you'd be managing several divisions, including some from Global Tech. Problem? I thought about Weston, about his condescending smile when he'd left, about the nights I'd spent crying while teaching myself to code. No problem at all. That evening, Presley, one of my direct reports, stopped by my desk. Heard about the promotion. Not everyone's happy about it. Because I'm new? She shrugged. Because you're good. You're shaking things up, and some people don't like change. Thanks for the warning. It's not a warning, she smiled. It's a compliment. We need someone who isn't afraid to make waves. At home, I found Noah struggling with his tablet. Mom, it's broken again. I sat beside him, examining the device. Let's see. Just needs to clear the cache. Want to learn how to fix it yourself? His eyes lit up. Can I? Of course. First, we'll open settings. As I walked him through the steps, I realized how much had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been drowning in despair. Now, I was teaching my son basic troubleshooting while preparing to take on a role that would put me directly above my ex-husband in the corporate hierarchy. My phone buzzed with a message from Hugo. Meeting tomorrow to discuss merger details. Bring your restructuring ideas. I smiled, thinking of Angela's words about karma. Sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting it at all. It's simply becoming everything they said you couldn't be. The boardroom buzzed with nervous energy as Hugo introduced me to the merger transition team. Our new COO will oversee the technical integration of both companies, he announced, gesturing for me to take the floor. I stood, smoothing my blazer, the same one Sadie had picked for my interview. Let's talk about optimization, I began, clicking through my presentation. Our first priority is identifying redundancies and streamlining operations across all divisions. A hand shot up from the global tech side. What exactly do you mean by redundancies? Some departments are underperforming, I replied, pulling up a chart. Particularly in the legacy systems division. Weston's division. I hadn't seen him yet. He was based in another office, but I knew his team's metrics. They were abysmal. After the meeting, Vivian caught up with me in the hallway. That was bold, targeting the legacy division right out of the gate. The numbers don't lie, I said, checking my phone. A text from the kid's sitter. Noah has a fever. Everything okay? Vivian asked. My son's sick. I need to... Go, she insisted. I'll handle the afternoon meetings. At home, I found Noah curled up on the couch, his normally energetic face flushed with fever. Mommy, he mumbled as I pressed a cool cloth to his forehead. I'm here, baby. I kicked off my heels and settled beside him. Want to watch a movie? He nodded weakly, snuggling closer. As we watched his favorite superhero film, my phone kept buzzing with emails about the merger. I ignored them all. The next morning, after a sleepless night of fever watches, I dropped a recovered Noah at school and headed to the office. Presley was waiting at my desk. You need to see this, she said, handing me a tablet. The Legacy Division's response to your presentation. I scrolled through their defensive justification for their poor performance. At the bottom was a familiar signature, Weston, Division Director. They're claiming our metrics are skewed, Presley continued. But I double-checked everything. They're just scared. Good, I muttered, then caught myself. I mean, fear can motivate change. There's something else. Presley lowered her voice. Rumor has it their director is coming to headquarters next week to challenge the numbers in person. My stomach clenched. Next week? Tuesday. Want me to sit in? I shook my head. I can handle it. That evening, I called Angela. He's coming here, I said as soon as she answered. To my office, to challenge my authority. Perfect, she exclaimed. This is your moment. My moment to what? Reveal that his ex-wife is now his boss? That seems deliciously karmic, because it is. I sighed, watching Sadie help Noah with his reading across the room. What if I'm letting this get too personal? Honey, he made it personal when he walked out on you and the kids. You're just doing your job. Extremely well, I might add. Later that night, I received an email from Hugo. Board wants accelerated timeline on restructuring. Need comprehensive plan by end of month. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Legacy Division's files. Weston's team wasn't just underperforming, they were actively resistant to change. Their systems were outdated, their processes inefficient, and their costs excessive. My phone pinged with a calendar invite. Tuesday, 10 a.m., Legacy Division Performance Review. As I stared at the invite, another email arrived, this one misdirected from Global Tech's internal system. The sender, Sophia. The recipient, Weston. Baby, I know you're stressed about the merger, it read. But maybe this is a sign. You've been talking about wanting a change anyway. We could finally move away, start fresh. I closed the email quickly, feeling like I'd glimpsed something I shouldn't have. But the words stuck with me. Weston was unhappy? Thinking of leaving? The thought brought an unexpected smile to my face. Mom? Sadie's voice pulled me back to reality. Can you help me with my science project? We're supposed to make a volcano. I closed my laptop. Of course, sweetie. Let me guess. Baking soda and vinegar? As we gathered supplies from the kitchen, I realized something. A year ago, I would have been devastated to learn Weston was planning another escape. Now? Now I was planning something of my own. My phone buzzed again. Vivian. Teams behind you on the restructuring. Let's show them what real leadership looks like. I texted back. Tuesday will be interesting. Then I turned back to my daughter and our volcano, pushing thoughts of Tuesday aside. The explosion would come soon enough. Tuesday arrived with the weight of an oncoming storm. I stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb, when a familiar cologne hit me before I saw him. Weston stepped in, his eyes fixed on his phone. "Good morning," I said quietly. He looked up, did a double take, and nearly dropped his device. "Taya? What are you?" The elevator dinged. I stepped out first. "Fourth floor meeting?" "Yes, but follow me." I led the way to the conference room, aware of his confusion radiating behind me. Inside, Presley and Vivian were already seated, along with several other team members. "Everyone," I announced, taking my place at the head of the table. "Let's begin the Legacy Division Performance Review." Weston stood frozen in the doorway. "You're the new COO?" "Please, take a seat," I gestured professionally. "We have a lot to cover." His face flushed as he sat down, fumbling with his presentation materials. I could feel everyone's eyes darting between us, sensing the tension. "Your division's latest quarterly results," I began, displaying the charts. "Care to explain these numbers?" He cleared his throat. "We've been transitioning systems. There were unexpected challenges." "For the past 3 quarters?" "If I may," he straightened his tie, attempting to regain composure. "Our team has decades of experience. We know what works." "Clearly not," I interrupted, switching to the next slide. "Your operating costs are 40% higher than comparable divisions, with 30% lower output. That's not experience. That's inefficiency." Presley slid a document across the table. "Our proposed restructuring plan." Weston's hands shook slightly as he read. You can't just..." "We can and we will," I stated firmly. "You have 3 months to implement these changes." "Or what?" "Or we'll find someone who can." After the meeting, Vivian caught up with me in my office. "That was intense. You didn't mention you knew him." "Would it have changed the facts?" "No, but..." She paused as my phone rang. It was Noah's school. "Ms. Stevenson, Noah's had an incident in the cafeteria. Nothing serious, but we need you to come pick him up." 20 minutes later, I found my son sitting outside the principal's office, tears streaking his face. "He called me a liar," Noah burst out before I could ask. "Jake said Dad doesn't want to see us anymore. That's why he missed my birthday. I pushed him." My heart cracked. Weston had promised to come to Noah's birthday last week, but canceled last minute. Something about an important meeting. "Oh, honey." I pulled him close. "Sometimes people say mean things because they're hurting too. Is it true? About Dad?" "No, baby. Dad loves you. He's just struggling right now." That evening, as I helped Sadie with her homework, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sophia. We need to talk. Coffee tomorrow?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Starbucks, 8 a.m. "Mom, is this right?" Sadie pushed her math worksheet toward me. "Let me see." I focused on her multiplication problems, pushing thoughts of tomorrow's meeting aside. The next morning I arrived early. Sophia was already there, looking younger than I remembered, more uncertain. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "I know this is weird." "What do you want, Sophia?" "It's about Weston. He's not handling things well. The merger, the review, finding out about you. That's not my problem anymore. Please," she leaned forward. "He might lose his job. We're supposed to be getting married, but now he's talking about moving away, starting over." I felt a laugh bubble up. "And you want me to what? Go easy on him? Protect his job?" I just thought, for the kids, don't. My voice turned to ice. "Don't you dare use my children to manipulate me. Weston chose this, all of it. His department is failing because he refuses to adapt. Just like our marriage failed because he refused to work at it." "I didn't mean..." "Meeting's over." I stood up, gathering my things. "Tell Weston if he wants to keep his job, he needs to follow the restructuring plan. And if he misses another one of his children's birthdays, we'll be having a very different conversation." As I walked out, my phone pinged with a message from Hugo. Board loved your restructuring presentation. Keep pushing forward. I smiled, thinking of Noah's superhero movies. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about becoming strong enough that they can't destroy you. Your dad's here, I told the kids as a familiar car pulled into our driveway. Remember, just 2 hours at the park. Sadie rolled her eyes. We know, Mom. Weston knocked instead of using his old key. Progress, I supposed. When I opened the door, he looked smaller somehow, his confident swagger replaced by uncertainty. They're ready, I said before he could speak. Have them back by 5. Taya, about the restructuring. Not now, not in front of them. The kids bounded down the stairs, backpacks ready for their park adventure. I hugged them goodbye, watching until Weston's car disappeared around the corner. My phone buzzed. Presley. Emergency at the office. Need you ASAP. I found the office in chaos. Someone had leaked details of the restructuring plan to the entire legacy division. Dozens of angry emails flooded my inbox, and Presley looked ready to pull her hair out. Half of Weston's team is threatening to quit, she explained, showing me the latest messages. They're saying we're destroying years of expertise. More like years of complacency, I muttered, scanning the emails. Call an all-hands meeting. Now. Within 30 minutes, the main conference room was packed. I stood at the front, facing the sea of worried faces. Let me be clear, I began. Change is not optional. This industry moves forward with or without us. Those who adapt will thrive. Those who don't. This is bullshit, someone shouted from the back. We've been here for years. And what do you have to show for those years? I countered. Outdated systems? Bloated processes? The world is digital now. Either evolve or become obsolete. Easy for you to say, another voice called out. You've been here, what, 6 months? In 6 months, I've increased efficiency by 35% in every department I've touched. How many of you can say the same? Silence fell over the room. The restructuring continues as planned, I finished. My door is open to anyone who wants to be part of the solution. The rest of you, well, that's your choice to make. After the meeting, Vivian appeared in my office. That was ruthless. That was necessary. Maybe, she sat down, but there's something you should see. She handed me a printed email chain. My eyes widened as I read. Messages between Weston and several board members, questioning my objectivity, suggesting personal bias in the restructuring plan. He's trying to undermine me, I said, my voice tight. He's trying to save himself. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before I could answer, my phone rang, the kid's emergency ringtone. My heart stopped. Hello? Mom? Sadie's voice trembled. Noah fell at the park. He's bleeding. Where's your father? Talking on the phone about work. Mom, there's a lot of blood. I was already grabbing my keys. Put pressure on it, honey, I'm coming. I found them at the emergency room. Noah sat on an exam table, sporting 6 stitches above his eye. Weston paced nearby, still on his phone. What happened? I demanded. He was climbing the monkey bars, Weston started. While you were what? Plotting against me at work? His face paled. Taya, I can explain. Save it. I turned to Noah, gently examining his stitches. You okay, baby? He nodded bravely. The doctor said I'm tough. Toughest kid I know, I agreed, then faced Weston. We're done here. I'm taking them home. Taya, please. You want to play office politics? Fine. But you do not put our children at risk while doing it. At home, after the kids were settled with ice cream and movies, I received an email from Hugo. Board meeting tomorrow. Bring everything you have on the Legacy Division's performance. I opened my laptop, pulling up files, metrics, and documentation. If Weston wanted a war, I'd give him one. But I'd fight it my way, with facts, figures, and irrefutable evidence of his division's failures. My phone lit up with a text from Angela. Heard about Noah. Need backup? No, I replied, but I might need a witness when I destroy his father's career tomorrow. That's my girl. Want me to take the kids after school? I looked at Noah dozing on the couch, his sister protectively close. Yes, tomorrow's going to be a long day. As I prepared for bed, another email arrived, from Sophia this time, but sent to Weston and accidentally copied to me. Baby, maybe we should reconsider the transfer. Your ex-wife clearly has it out for you. I smiled, saving the email as evidence. Sometimes Karma needed a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. The board meeting room felt like a courtroom, with Hugo at the head table and 12 pairs of eyes fixed on me. Weston sat across the room, Sophia surprisingly present beside him. She wouldn't meet my gaze. Let's address the elephant in the room, Hugo began. Weston has raised concerns about potential personal bias in our restructuring plans. Taya, your response? I stood, connecting my laptop to the projector. I'll let the data speak for itself. The first slide appeared, a devastating comparison of division performances. These aren't my numbers, I explained. These are independently audited figures spanning the past 3 years. That's not the point, Weston interrupted. This is clearly personal. Personal? I clicked to the next slide. Like missing your son's birthday for a meeting that, according to the company calendar, never existed, or being on your phone discussing office politics while our child needed emergency stitches? That's not fair. What's not fair, I continued, is watching talented team members stagnate under leadership that refuses to innovate. I distributed folders to each board member. These are resignation letters from 6 of your top developers, all citing resistance to necessary technological updates. Sophia touched Weston's arm as he started to respond, but he shrugged her off. You're trying to destroy everything I've built, he accused. You're doing that yourself. I pulled up an email on the screen. This was sent to your team last month, explicitly instructing them to ignore the new implementation protocols. The board members leaned forward, reading. Hugo's expression darkened. That's a private communication, Weston protested. Nothing is private when it violates company policy. I turned to the board. The legacy division isn't failing because of personal vendettas. It's failing because its leader is more interested in maintaining control than adapting to change. Sophia suddenly stood up. This isn't right. Tell them, Weston. Tell them what? He snapped. About the job offer in Seattle. About how you've been planning to leave anyway. The room fell silent. Hugo raised an eyebrow. Is this true? Weston's face reddened. I was exploring options. While actively undermining our restructuring efforts, I finished, putting both the company and your team at risk. I think we've heard enough, Hugo announced. Weston, please wait outside while we discuss this matter. As Weston and Sophia left, I caught a glimpse of their expressions, his angry, hers disappointed. The sight brought no satisfaction, only a hollow feeling in my chest. 20 minutes later, Hugo called me to his office. The board has decided to accelerate the restructuring, he said. Weston will be offered a choice, accept a demotion or take a severance package. And if he fights it? The evidence is clear. He won't win. My phone buzzed. Angela. Kids are good. Noah's showing off his stitches like battle wounds. You okay? Before I could respond, there was a knock. Sophia stood in the doorway. Can we talk? She asked. Alone? Hugo nodded, leaving us. I'm sorry, she said immediately. About everything. The park incident, the undermining, all of it. Why are you telling me this? Because you should know. He did the same thing to me that he did to you. Made promises, blamed others for his failures. Always had an escape plan ready. I sat down heavily. The Seattle job? Doesn't exist. It was just another fantasy he used to avoid responsibility. She smiled sadly. You're better at this than I ever was. Standing up to him, I mean. Practice makes perfect, I replied dryly. My phone buzzed again, Sadie this time. Mom, can we have pizza tonight? Noah says his stitches deserve pizza. Looking at the message, I felt the tension leave my body. This wasn't about Weston anymore. It never really was. I have to go, I told Sophia. My kids need me. Of course, she hesitated. For what it's worth, I'm ending things with him. I deserve better. Yes, I agreed. You do. On my way out, I passed Weston sitting alone in the hallway, head in his hands. For a moment, I remembered the man I'd married. ambitious, charming, full of dreams. But that man had vanished long ago, replaced by someone I barely recognized. "The HR team will contact you tomorrow," I said professionally as I walked past. "Taya, wait." "Goodbye, Weston." In my car, I finally replied to Angela, "Kids still up for a sleepover? I need a pizza party with my favorite people." "Already ordered. Extra cheese, just like Noah likes it." I smiled, starting the engine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning or losing. It's about knowing exactly who you are and what matters most. And right now, what mattered most was waiting for me with pizza and battle stories about 6 brave stitches. "He took the severance," Vivian announced, dropping into the chair across from my desk. "Signed the papers this morning." I nodded, focusing on my laptop screen. "And the team?" "Already responding well to the interim leadership. Presley's handling the transition beautifully." My phone lit up with a text from Weston. "Need to talk about the kids. Coffee." "Everything okay?" Vivian asked, noticing my expression. "Just loose ends to tie up." I texted back, "Pick them up from school today. We'll talk then." The school parking lot was quieter than usual when I arrived. Weston was already there, looking disheveled in a way I'd never seen before. No tie, wrinkled shirt, 3 days of stubble. "Sophia left," he said as soon as I approached. "I know. She said I never changed, that I did to her what I did to you." The kids burst out of the school before I could respond. Noah spotted us first, his stitches now just a red line above his eye. "Dad? Mom?" His voice wavered with uncertainty. "Hey, buddy," Weston knelt down. "I owe you an apology. About the park, about your birthday, about a lot of things." Sadie hung back, watching with arms crossed, a miniature version of my own defensive stance. "Are you moving to Seattle?" she asked bluntly. Weston flinched. "No, sweetheart. I'm staying right here. If that's okay with you guys." "Why should we believe you?" Her voice cracked slightly. I touched her shoulder. "Sadie." "No, she's right," Weston interrupted. "I haven't given you any reason to trust me, but I'm asking for a chance to do better." Noah moved closer to his sister. "You made Mom cry. A lot." "I know." Weston's eyes met mine briefly. "I made a lot of mistakes, but losing my job, losing Sophia, it made me realize what really matters." "Ice cream," I said suddenly. "What?" 3 confused faces turned to me. "Let's get ice cream. We can talk more there." At the ice cream parlor, watching the kids deliberate over flavors, Weston spoke quietly. "I'm sorry, Taya, for everything. I'm not the one who needs to hear that anymore. I know, but they do, and I don't know how." "Start by showing up," I said firmly. "Not just when it's convenient. Every time you say you will. Build trust back one promise at a time. Like you did, with your new career." I did that for them, and for me. The kids returned with towering sundaes. Noah had chocolate sauce dripping down his chin within seconds. "Dad," Sadie said between bites, "if you're staying, will you come to my soccer game Saturday?" "I'll be there." "Promise?" Her eyes narrowed. "Front row, with one of those embarrassing parent signs if you want." She almost smiled. Almost. Back at the school parking lot, Weston hugged the kids goodbye. "Saturday," he confirmed. "I promise." As he walked to his car, my phone buzzed. "Hugo. Board wants to discuss expanding your role. Dinner meeting tomorrow?" "Everything okay, Mom?" Sadie asked as we drove home. "Better than okay," I assured her. "How about you?" She considered this. "I'm still mad at Dad. But? But maybe people can change, like you did." That evening, as I helped Noah with his reading, Angela called. "Heard Weston took the severance. How are you feeling?" "Surprisingly peaceful." "Really? No urge to gloat? No victory dance?" I watched Noah sound out a difficult word, his face scrunched in concentration. "The victory isn't in destroying him. It's in building something better from the wreckage." "When did you get so wise?" "Somewhere between learning Python and running a company. After putting the kids to bed, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine. My phone lit up with an email from Presley. "Team morale at an all-time high. You should see the innovations they're proposing now that they feel heard. Another text came through from Weston. Thank you, for today, for not telling them about Seattle, for everything. I didn't reply. Some messages don't need answers. Some chapters need to close quietly. Instead, I opened my laptop and began working on tomorrow's presentation for the board. On my screen, lines of code merged with business projections, creating something new, something better, just like us. Mom, Dad's sign is so embarrassing, Sadie groaned, but I caught her secret smile as she ran onto the soccer field. True to his word, Weston stood on the sidelines holding a glitter-covered poster that read, "Go Sadie, kick some grass." Noah sat beside him, adding more sparkles to the already bedazzled creation. I settled into my camping chair, laptop balanced on my knees. The quarterly reports could wait. My daughter was about to play striker for the first time. Quite the sign, Vivian commented, surprising me as she claimed the chair next to mine. Mind if I join? My nephew's on the opposing team. You came to watch soccer on a Saturday? She shrugged. After your presentation yesterday, I figured I should see what work-life balance actually looks like. The board meeting had been unexpected. Instead of just discussing my role expansion, they'd wanted my vision for the company's future. I'd talked about flexible schedules, remote work options, and family-friendly policies. We're a tech company, I'd told them. We should be leading the way in how people work, not just what they work on. On the field, Sadie intercepted a pass. The crowd cheered as she dribbled toward the goal. "That's my girl!" Weston shouted, waving his sign wildly. "He's different," Vivian observed. "He's trying," I corrected. "That's what matters." Sadie scored, and Noah launched himself at his father in celebration, sending glitter everywhere. I couldn't help laughing at their sparkly joy. My phone buzzed. Angela. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic. Did I miss anything?" "Just your goddaughter's first goal as striker." "What? Stall the game. I'm 5 minutes away." During halftime, Weston approached my chair. "Hugo called me yesterday." "Oh?" "He's offering me a consulting position. Said something about valuable institutional knowledge that shouldn't go to waste." He paused. "Did you—" "The company needs people who understand its history," I said, "as long as they're also willing to embrace its future." "Thank you. Don't thank me. Prove it was the right call." The second half started, and Angela finally arrived, bearing victory popsicles for after the game. As we watched Sadie play, I felt my laptop sliding off my knees. "I'll take that," Vivian said, catching it. "You've got a game to watch." When the final whistle blew, Sadie's team had won 3-1. She ran to us, sweaty and beaming. Did you see? Did you see my goal?" "We all saw," I assured her, pulling her close despite the sweat. Every amazing second. "Even the part where I stole the ball from that kid who called Noah names last week?" "Especially that part," Weston grinned. Later, at the post-game pizza celebration, I watched my children. Noah was teaching Weston some coding basics he'd learned from me, while Sadie regaled Angela with a play-by-play of her victory. "Your team's quarterly numbers came in," Vivian mentioned, sliding into the booth beside me. "Best performance in company history." "The team did the work. I just gave them room to shine." "Like you did with him?" She nodded toward Weston. "No," I said thoughtfully. "I gave myself room to shine. Everything else just followed." My phone lit up with a message from Hugo. "Board approved all your proposals. The future looks bright." "Mom," Noah called out. "Dad doesn't understand a raise. Can you explain it to him?" I looked at my son, his stitches now just a faint line, his eyes bright with the joy of teaching something new. At Sadie, still in her soccer uniform, gesturing wildly as she described her goal. At Weston, humbled but present, genuinely trying to understand both a raise and his children. "Coming," I said, sliding out of the booth. "But first, who wants more pizza?" A chorus of "me" erupted from the table. As I walked to the counter, I caught my reflection in the window. I saw someone I barely recognized, stronger, happier, whole. Not because of revenge or success or even forgiveness, but because I'd finally learned to code my own life, debugging the parts that didn't work and building something better in their place. Hey, Angela called out. You okay over there? I turned back to my family, the one we'd rebuilt from the ground up with new functions and better protocols. Never better, I replied. And for the first time in forever, it was absolutely true.
It was a regular Tuesday at the clinic, the kind where the coffee machine becomes your best friend and the clock seems to be stuck. I'm a psychologist here, dealing with folks who carry more baggage than a loaded freight train. It's tough, but rewarding. That's when Jake walked in, lugging his dad along who looked like he'd seen better days. Hey, I need some help here. It's like a maze, and my dad needs to see the doc, pronto, Jake said, his voice laced with worry but trying to keep it cool. Sure thing, I replied, putting down my third cup of coffee. Follow me. As we walked, Jake kept thanking me like I was doing him a huge favor. Really appreciate this. Dad's been off his game, and I'm just trying to keep the ship from sinking, you know? I nodded. You're doing good. It's not easy, but hey, you're not alone. He gave me a look, a mix of surprise and relief. It was clear he wasn't used to getting support. We got to the doc's office, and I assured him they were in good hands. Thanks, Call me Alex. Thanks, Alex. I owe you one. Let me buy you coffee sometime? Jake offered, scratching the back of his neck, looking a bit awkward. I laughed. Sure, but I warn you, I'm a tough critic when it comes to coffee. Challenge accepted. He grinned, and just like that, we hit it off. We started hanging out, first coffee, then movies, and the occasional dinner. It was easy with him, like I didn't have to try hard to be someone I'm not. Jake was all about keeping things real, no airs about him. He worked in his family's laundry business, nothing glamorous, but he was proud of what they built. One thing led to another, and our casual meets turned into something more. Jake was a breath of fresh air, his straightforwardness, the way he'd call it as he saw it, no sugarcoating. It was refreshing, especially in my line of work where everything's about reading between the lines. Alex, you know, I've been thinking, Jake said one evening as we were closing down another burger joint. We're good together. Like, really good. I smirked, sipping on the last of my milkshake. Took you long enough to notice. He laughed, that easy, carefree sound. So, what do you say? You want to make this a regular thing? Jake, I thought you'd never ask. Yes, let's see where this train wreck goes, I teased, bumping his shoulder with mine. A year into dating Jake, things got pretty serious, pretty fast. We were like two peas in a pod, dreaming big and laughing through it all. One chilly evening, wrapped up in layers, we were at our favorite spot in the city, a little bench overlooking the river. That's when Jake, in his no-nonsense way, popped the question. So, Alex, I've been thinking, he started, his breath forming little clouds in the cold air. How about we make this official? You, me, a couple of kids running around? I couldn't help but laugh. Kids, huh? You sure you can handle that? With you? I'd handle a zoo. He shot back with a grin. I took a moment, looking out at the water, the future suddenly feeling so real and close. Yes, Jake. Let's dive into that zoo together. The decision to marry Jake was the easy part. Living it out, now that was going to be a challenge. We decided on a small, cozy wedding and started talking about our future, dreaming of a big family. Jake was on board, his dreams as big as mine. We settled in a rented apartment, squirreling away whatever we could for a down payment on a house. But, not everything was smooth sailing. The real storm brewed with Jake's parents, especially his mom, Mrs. Peterson. The Petersons ran a laundry and dry cleaning business, a stone's throw from their place. It was their pride and joy, a family affair through and through. After the wedding, Mrs. Peterson, with her usual flair for the dramatic, made an offer. Why don't you two move in with us? Save some money, help out with the business, she suggested one evening, her tone suggesting it was more of an order than a suggestion. Jake and I exchanged looks. We'd already discussed this and knew where we stood. Thanks, Mrs. P, but we're good in our place. Plus, my job is on the other side of town. I tried to let her down easy. Mrs. Peterson wasn't having it. Nonsense. Alex can quit her job. We need her here, in the family business. It's high time she started contributing. She pushed, her eyes locking onto mine like a hawk. I took a deep breath, keeping my cool. I respect what you've built with the laundry, really, I do. But I'm a psychologist. I help people too, in a different way. I can't just give that up. It was like talking to a brick wall. Mrs. Peterson's disapproval was palpable, her remarks getting sharper by the day. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't want to fold clothes for a living when I could be helping people sort through their mental and emotional laundry instead. Jake tried to mediate, but there was a clear tension every time the topic came up. We loved each other, but the shadow of the family business loomed over us, testing us, pulling us in directions we didn't want to go. Life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, and just when Jake and I thought we had things kinda sorted, his dad's health took a nosedive. And then he passed away. It hit Jake like a ton of bricks. He was tight with his dad. And Mrs. Peterson, well, she was a wreck, clinging to Jake for every little thing. That's when the real test began. Jake came to me one evening, looking more serious than I'd seen him in a while. Alex, babe, we gotta talk. It's about my mom. I knew that tone. What's up? Your mom okay? He took a deep breath, running his hands through his hair, a sure sign he was stressed. Not really. She's not doing great, and she's not handling it well. I'm worried about leaving her alone. I sat down, bracing myself for what I knew was coming. You're thinking we should move in with her, aren't you? Jake nodded, looking guilty. I know it's a lot to ask, Alex. It's just, I don't see another way. The idea of living with Mrs. Peterson, with her constant digs and that my way or the highway attitude, had me breaking out in hives. But I saw the desperation in Jake's eyes, and damn it, I loved the guy. Look, Jake, I'm not gonna lie. The thought of living with your mom gives me nightmares. But I get it, family's family. We'll figure it out. He grabbed my hand, relief washing over him. Thanks, Alex. I promise, we'll make it work. Moving in was rough. Mrs. Peterson had an opinion on everything, from how I dressed to how I cooked. It was like walking on eggshells covered in landmines. One evening, after a particularly long day at the clinic followed by an even longer commute, I came home to find Mrs. Peterson in full critique mode. That's not how you fold the towels, Alex. And dinner, well, I suppose it'll have to do. I clenched my teeth, counting to 10 in my head. Mrs. Peterson, I'm doing my best here. Maybe you could show me how you'd like things done? She huffed. Well, if I have to do everything myself, what's the point of you being here? Jake walked in just then, catching the tail end of the conversation. Mom, come on. Alex is helping out a lot. Let's give it a rest, huh? Mrs. Peterson shot me a look that could curdle milk, but backed off. That night, Jake and I had a long talk. Alex, I know this is tough. I see it, and I'm sorry. But we're in this together, okay? We'll make it work. I nodded, exhausted. Together. But Jake, something's gotta give. I can't keep doing this dance with your mom. It's like she's got it out for me. He squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out, babe. We always do. 6 months in, and I'd had my fill of getting an earful from Jake and his ma every day, like clockwork. Their gripes and digs were my daily bread, couldn't do anything right, according to them. So, I figured, maybe if I wasn't around as much, they'd find someone else to nag. I cut down my hours at the clinic to a part-time gig and started putting in shifts at the laundry in the afternoons. Jake seemed up for it, saying it was a smart move. But then he drops on me that he won't be paying me a dime. Let's not muck about with the taxes and all that, he says. You'll just use the family account when you need to. Sounded a bit off, but I let it slide. I was more into smoothing things over than counting pennies. That was the plan, then. Clinic in the morning, drowning in suds by afternoon. Jake reckoned it was a win-win. I wasn't so sure, but I was willing to give it a shot, hoping it might ease the constant bickering at home. Plus, it'd be a chance to get a real look at the family business, see what all the fuss was about from the inside. I threw myself into that laundry business, heart and soul. Before I knew it, I was spotting gaps and thinking up ways to pull in more folks. It wasn't just about washing and drying, it was about giving people a reason to choose us over the next place. But when I laid my cards on the table, hoping Jake would see the potential, he shot me down. I'd been in this game since I was knee-high. What do you know about running a laundry? He scoffed. I was gutted. But worse, I started noticing the numbers weren't adding up. Fewer customers, more complaints. It was a sinking ship, and I wasn't about to go down without a fight. I tried talking to his mom, thinking maybe she'd get it. I even found the perfect spot next door to expand. But no dice. Jake was her golden boy, could do no wrong. It was like talking to a brick wall. But I wasn't done yet. I gathered up all the evidence I could, graphs showing our dipping income, screenshots of scathing reviews online. You name it, I had it. Customers were fed up with the sky-high prices, the missing socks, and shirts, the lot. Armed to the teeth, I confronted Jake. Look at this, I said, shoving the papers in his face. We're bleeding money. And people are talking, none of it good. If we don't shake things up, we're headed straight for the gutter. He barely glanced at the papers before tossing them aside. You're clueless, he snapped. This is my turf. You think a few bad reviews and a dip in cash flow mean we're tanking? You don't know the first thing about running a laundry. His words hit like a slap. I'd laid it all out, clear as day, but he was too stubborn to see. It wasn't just about the laundry anymore, it was about respect, about listening to each other. And right then, I realized maybe we weren't on the same page after all, maybe we weren't even in the same book. I watched, helpless, as our numbers continued to slide. Every attempt at conversation was met with, Alex, just focus on the work. Leave the thinking to me. The final straw came during one of our discussions, where Mrs. Peterson accused me of trying to torpedo the business with my wild ideas. I'm just trying to help, I protested, but it fell on deaf ears. Jake stood by, a silent witness to his mother's tirade. It was clear where his loyalties lay, and apparently, they weren't with me or the sinking ship that was our laundry business. After months of juggling clinic hours and the laundry, with my spirit bent but not broken under the weight of constant sniping from Jake and his mom, I hit my limit. It wasn't one big thing that did it, but 1,000 little cuts, each one stinging more than the last. Every day felt like navigating a minefield, but I kept my head down, thinking maybe, just maybe, things would get better. That was until my birthday rolled around, a day that should have been about a little joy, a little break from the endless grind. I left a note for Jake in the morning, thinking he'd at least remember the date. Out for the morning. Back soon. Simple, right? I treated myself to a new dress, something I hadn't done in ages, then hit the salon. Hair, nails, makeup, the works. It was my day, after all. Or so I thought. The moment I stepped back into the house, I could feel the storm brewing. Jake and his mom, Mrs. Peterson, were there, faces like thunderclouds, waiting for me. Where the hell have you been? Jake barked the second I walked in. The laundry's been a mess without you, and there's no breakfast. I blinked, taken aback. But, it's my birthday, I thought. His mother cut in, her voice sharp as a knife. Your birthday? You think that's some excuse to slack off? We needed you here. You're just lazy and clueless, not even fit to be a housekeeper. I felt my heart sink. Not even a happy birthday? Nothing? I turned to Jake, searching his face for some support, some sign he'd stand up for me. Jake, you too? You think I'm just lazy? He wouldn't meet my eye. Mom's right, Alex. We can't have you running off whenever you feel like it. There's work to be done. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. All the patience, all the effort I'd put into making this work, it just crumbled. You know what? I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce, I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Mrs. Peterson actually clapped her hands, a gleeful, cruel sound. Finally, we're getting rid of her. Then, as if she hadn't already twisted the knife enough, she added, "You'll be paying for your stay here for the past 3 years, of course." I laughed. It was that or cry. Actually, I think it's you who owes me. For all the unpaid work, the holidays, the sick days. Let's see how that adds up, shall we? Her face dropped. The room went silent, the air thick with tension. Jake looked between us, clearly at a loss. The conversation spiraled from there. Accusations flew, past grievances aired. It was ugly, raw, and painful, a litany of all the ways we'd failed each other, laid bare. I bent over backwards for this family, for this business, and this is the thanks I get? I said, my voice rising with each word. And what about me? What about what I've given up? Jake shot back, anger and something like regret flashing in his eyes. We're talking past each other, Jake. I don't even recognize us anymore, I replied, the fight draining out of me. The talk of divorce, of debts and dues, it all just underscored how far apart we'd grown. The love that had once bound us together had been stretched thin, frayed by neglect and misunderstanding. Walking away from Jake and his mom, I had a head full of steam and a heart full of hurt. But beneath all that, there was this tiny, stubborn spark of something like hope. Or maybe it was just spite. Either way, it was enough to get me moving. First thing, I found myself a little apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, all mine. The silence was deafening at first, a stark contrast to the constant bickering and criticism I'd gotten used to. But I filled it up with plans and dreams, louder and more vibrant than any argument. I remember sitting there on a second-hand couch, surrounded by unpacked boxes, when my best friend Liz dropped by. She found me surrounded by papers, my laptop open to a dozen tabs, all research. "What's all this?" Liz asked, raising an eyebrow as she picked up a stack of printouts about business loans and laundry equipment. "I'm starting my own laundry business," I declared, more to convince myself than her. Liz whistled, low and impressed. "That's a bold move, Alex. Going head-to-head with Jake and his mom?" I nodded, feeling the resolve solidify within me. "Yeah, they think they've seen the last of me, but I'm not done. Not by a long shot. I found a spot for rent right next to their laundry. It's perfect." "Isn't that a bit direct?" Liz asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "Direct is exactly what I'm going for. I've got ideas, Liz. Good ones. And I know I can make this work," I said, the words tumbling out with a passion I hadn't felt in months. Liz smiled, her support unwavering. "Well, then, you're gonna need a business plan. And probably a drink. I'll grab the wine, you start brainstorming." So we did. We outlined everything from business hours to services offered, differentiating my future laundry from the one run by Jake and his mom. I wanted to create a space that was more than just a place to wash clothes, a community hub, with top-notch service and a personal touch. "Offer something they don't," Liz suggested, sipping her wine. "Like a loyalty program or better yet, a guarantee for lost items." "That's genius," I said, the idea sparking excitement. "And I can set up a play area for kids, maybe even a small cafe corner. Make it a place where people actually want to spend time." We worked into the night, fueled by wine and the thrill of creation. By the time Liz left, I had a solid plan and a fire in my belly. It was more than just a business venture, it was my shot at proving them wrong, at proving to myself that I was more than what they saw. After the dust settled from the divorce, I dove headfirst into my plan. The empty spot next to Jake's laundry? Snagged it. It was a mess, sure, but it had potential. I poured everything into fixing it up, buying the best washers and dryers I could afford, and stocking up on top-notch cleaning supplies. The place started shaping up, and I opened the doors with a mix of dread and hope. At first, it was like shouting into the void. Folks just kept on walking past to Jake's, sticking to what they knew. But I wasn't about to fold that easy. I made my place welcoming, a coffee machine for the adults, a small play area for the kids, even a couple of slot machines for a bit of fun. I stayed open round the clock, added security cameras, and made damn sure everyone's clothes were treated like treasure. Listen, I'll give you the best service you've ever had. I'd tell anyone who wandered in, half curious, half skeptical. Not happy with the clean? It's on the house. But when you see the results, you'll want to come back. Guaranteed. Word started getting around, thanks to the effort I put into every detail and every customer. Reviews on the internet began flipping from skeptical to stellar. Never seen my whites so white, one said. The coffee's a nice touch, said another. Love the spot for the kids, chimed in a third. Before I knew it, my little laundry was buzzing, lines forming even in the early hours. My laundry became the go-to spot, not just for the quality of the clean, but for the community I was building. People didn't just come to wash their clothes, they came for a chat, a cup of coffee, or just a break from their day. It was more than a laundry, it was a place people looked forward to visiting. The success was sweet, not gonna lie. But the best part? Knowing I did it my way, with integrity and a hell of a lot of hard work. Jake and his mom could keep their old-fashioned ways and their grudges. I was moving forward, one satisfied customer at a time. The day it all came to a head, the air was thick with the scent of detergent and success. That's when Jake and his mother, like two storm clouds ready to burst, charged into my sunny day. Jake was the first to launch into the tirade. You've got some nerve, Alex. Siphoning off our customers with your undercut prices and fancy extras. What's the game, huh? I didn't flinch. Experience had taught me calmness was a weapon. Game? There's no game, Jake. Just good business. I'm offering what people want and need. Can you say the same? His mother, ever the fire starter, piped up with venom. You're a thief and a liar. Making us look bad, stealing our hard-earned customers. You've turned this into a personal vendetta. I sighed, leaning against the freshly wiped counter. Mrs. Peterson, let's get one thing straight, I haven't stolen anything. People come here because they're tired of your hard-earned neglect. It's as simple as that. Jake's face reddened, a mix of anger and something else, perhaps a dawning realization. We came here to tell you to back off, to stop messing with our livelihood. It was almost laughable. Back off? You two practically threw me out, remember? I made this place from scratch, without stepping on anyone's toes. You decided to take it as a declaration of war. I glanced pointedly at the security cameras. I won't tolerate threats or scenes here, Jake. Everything's recorded, remember that. His mother, undeterred by reason or technology, spat back. You've ruined us, girl. Where do you get off, destroying our family business like this? That's when I brought out my phone, showing them the barrage of negative reviews their service had accumulated. Destroying? No. People made their choice based on the service they received, or didn't, in your case. Dirty rooms, rude service, and prices through the roof for what? Shoddy work? I could see Jake struggling, torn between familial loyalty and the hard truth in my words. We were doing just fine before you started this crusade. Crusade? I echoed, incredulous. Jake, all I did was fill a gap you left wide open. I offered suggestions, remember? You both decided I was the enemy for trying to help. The room fell silent, the weight of the moment settling heavily. Mrs. Peterson, in a last, desperate bid, shifted tactics. Fine, then if you're so successful, hire us. Our laundry is dying, we're swamped in debt. I let out a dry laugh. hire you? After everything? I think it's time for you both to leave. My customers don't need this kind of drama. They knew they had lost this battle, their shoulders slumping as they turned to leave. Jake paused at the door, a complex look crossing his face, a mixture of regret and resignation. This isn't over, Alex, he said, but it lacked conviction. But it was over, at least for me. I had built something out of the ashes of their disdain, a place that brought a little bit of joy and cleanliness into people's lives. And as they walked out the door, I turned back to my bustling laundry, a smile playing on my lips. This chapter of my life was closed, and I was already looking forward to the next. Alright, let's dive a bit deeper into how it all started. The day I met Tom wasn't anything special, at least it didn't start that way. Just me, trying to break free from the grind with a bike ride. Then, bang, my chain decides to call it quits right in the middle of nowhere. Picture this, me, stranded, with my bike flipped upside down, hands covered in grease, and not a clue on how to fix it. That's when Tom showed up. "Looks like you could use a hand," he said, rolling up on his bike, a grin plastered on his face. He had that look of someone who's seen his fair share of bike troubles. I sighed. Yeah, this isn't exactly my forte. I was hoping to enjoy a peaceful ride, not a mechanic's lesson. Tom chuckled as he dismounted. Well, life's got a funny way of throwing lessons at us. Let's see what we got here. He knelt beside the bike, his hands moving confidently over the parts. I couldn't help but notice how at ease he seemed, like this was just another day in the park for him. Chains come off, and you've got a bit of a mess here, Tom observed, glancing up at me. You ride often? Trying to, I replied, folding my arms. But it seems like my bike's got other plans. Here, hold this, he said, handing me a tool I couldn't name if my life depended on it. We worked together, or more accurately, he worked while I handed him tools, following his instructions. You're not from around here, are you? He asked casually, as if we were discussing the weather. How'd you guess? I said, trying to sound lighthearted. I was new in town, having moved for the job. Didn't know many people, especially not helpful, bike repairing strangers. Just a hunch. I've got a good eye for new faces. Name's Tom. He introduced himself properly, finally getting the chain back on track. Naomi, I replied, offering a grimy hand, which he shook without hesitation. There, all done. She should ride smoothly now. Just try to avoid any more adventures today, Tom said, standing up and wiping his hands on his jeans. I couldn't help but laugh. I'll try, but no promises. Thanks a lot, Tom. I was pretty much stranded. Anytime, Naomi. If you ever need a riding partner or another lesson in bike mechanics, you know who to call, he said with a wink. His casual confidence was disarming. Not in a bad way, though. It felt like talking to an old friend, someone who just gets it. We parted ways, but not before exchanging numbers. There was something about Tom, a straightforwardness I appreciated. No airs, no pretending. Just him, his bike, and a willingness to help out a stranger. Little did I know, this chance meeting would turn into so much more. It was the beginning of everything, the good, the bad, and the utterly unexpected. After that unexpected yet serendipitous bike repair session, Tom and I started hanging out more. It wasn't long before we were inseparable, cycling around, exploring every nook and cranny of our little town. It felt like we were in our little world, pedaling towards something beautiful, something ours. Our dreams started weaving together, stitching a future we both yearned for. One lazy Sunday afternoon, sprawled on the couch after a particularly grueling ride, Tom broke the silence. You know, Naomi, I've been thinking. I turned to look at him, raising an eyebrow. Thinking? That sounds dangerous. He chuckled, that easy, infectious laugh of his filling the room. Yeah, well, hear me out. We've been doing this. He gestured vaguely around. This whole thing. It's great, but I've been thinking about what's next. I sat up, intrigued. What's next? Like, more biking trails? Or trying out those tandem bikes? I joked, but I could tell he was onto something bigger. No, not exactly. I mean, yes to more trails, but I was thinking more along the lines of, us. Our future. Maybe it's time we started thinking about settling down? You know, find a place that's ours, build a life together. His words hit me like a gentle wave, unexpected yet refreshing. Settling down, huh? I mused, letting the idea swirl around in my mind. I like the sound of that. But, we've got to think big, Tom. If we're doing this, I want us to dream big. A house, yes, but not just any house. Somewhere we can really call home, where we can maybe start a family? Tom's eyes lit up, his hand finding mine, squeezing it gently. Exactly. I was hoping you'd say that. I've been looking at places, nothing concrete, just daydreaming, I guess. There's this one spot, it's a bit out of the way, but the view, Naomi, it's like something out of a dream. We could have our morning coffee overlooking the valley, go on bike rides without seeing a soul. The excitement in his voice was contagious. I leaned in, imagining our future mornings, the mist over the valley, the sound of our laughter echoing as we chased each other on our bikes. Tom, that sounds perfect. But, it's gonna be a lot of work. We're gonna have to hustle like never before. Yeah, I know. But we've got this, Naomi. We make a pretty damn good team, if I say so myself. And hey, no one said our dreams would be handed to us. We'll work for it, every step of the way. The determination in his voice was all the confirmation I needed. We were in this together, ready to face whatever came our way. But, Tom, we've got to make sure we're on the same page here. No sugarcoating, no holding back. If we're doing this, it's gonna take everything we've got. Savings, late nights, maybe even cutting back on some of our adventures. Tom nodded, his expression serious. I get it, and you're right. It's not gonna be easy. But imagine, just imagine, Naomi, coming home to our place, our kids running around in the yard. It'll be worth it. I smiled, leaning my head on his shoulder. Yeah, it will be. And hey, when things get tough, we'll just remind each other of that view, of the mornings we're working towards. Deal? Deal, he agreed, wrapping an arm around me. We sat there in silence, not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that spoke volumes. We were dreaming together, our hopes and fears laid bare, united by a common goal. The only thing that bothered me about living with Tom was his sister. Stepping into Lily's world is like walking into a never-ending party, where responsibility is the guest that never got invited. The first time I met her, she was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone like it held the secrets of the universe. I'd just moved some of my stuff into the small house that Tom and I were calling home, and there she was, making herself very at home. Hey, you must be Naomi, the new sis-in-law, Lily said, without looking up from her phone. Her tone was casual, almost too casual, for someone who was meeting her brother's wife, for the first time. Yeah, that's me, I replied, trying to keep the peace. Nice to meet you, Lily. Was all she said, finally gracing me with a glance. It was clear from the get-go that Lily lived in a bubble, one where work was a mythical concept and money was just something you asked for. One evening, not long after that first meeting, I found myself sitting at the dinner table with Tom's family. It was a regular occurrence, these family dinners, but they always had a way of turning into a stage for the latest Lily drama. So, Lily, have you thought about what Dad offered? Tom asked, trying to sound as non-confrontational as possible. He was referring to the job offer at his dad's company, an assistant manager position that would have been a golden opportunity for anyone looking to get their foot in the door. Lily scoffed, a forkful of salad halfway to her mouth. Work for peanuts? No thanks. I'm waiting for something better. Her dad, a man of patience, but wearing thin, chimed in. Lily, you can't just wait around forever. It's time you start taking some responsibility. Oh, please, not this lecture again. Lily rolled her eyes, dropping her fork with a clatter. I don't see why I should settle for some dead-end job. The table went silent. Tom's mom, always the peacemaker, tried to change the subject, but the tension lingered like a bad taste. It wasn't just the job situation, though. Lily's financial escapades were legendary. One time, she racked up a bill so high at some fancy club, her mom had to sell a pair of jeweled earrings just to cover it. I can't believe you let it get that bad, Tom said to Lily one afternoon when the bill came to light. We were all in the living room, the air thick with disappointment and disbelief. Lily just shrugged. I didn't ask her to sell her earrings, she offered. That's not the point, Lily. Tom raised his voice, a rare occurrence. You're taking advantage of Mom's kindness. And you're not? Lily shot back, her voice rising. You and Naomi living in that house, rent-free. Granddad left it to you, but it's still taking advantage. I could feel my cheeks heating up. This was different, and she knew it. We were saving up, working towards something more. Lily, on the other hand, was just burning through life with no thought for tomorrow. Living in that house isn't the same as blowing money on parties and expecting Mom to bail you out, I finally said, unable to keep quiet. Lily looked at me, her eyes narrowing. Oh, so now you're part of this? Last I checked, you're not a part of this family by blood. There was silence after these words, and I realized that I was blushing even more. Lately, our little home started feeling less like a sanctuary and more like a public park. Ever since Lily discovered where the spare key was hidden, or more accurately, bullied Tom into telling her, our place became her go-to spot. Not for a chat and a cup of tea, mind you, but as her personal lounge, pantry, and, increasingly, her wardrobe. One particularly stressful Thursday, I came home from work, dead on my feet, dreaming of a hot shower and an evening curled up with Tom on the couch. Instead, I walked into what looked like the aftermath of a hurricane. Lily sprawled on the couch, TV blaring, surrounded by a mess of snack wrappers and several of my personal belongings scattered around her like she owned the place. I dropped my bag, the sound drowned out by the TV. My patience, already hanging by a thread, snapped. Lily, what the hell is this? She barely glanced at me, eyes glued to the screen. Chill, Naomi. Just killing some time. Your place is better than ours, you know that. I took a deep breath, counting to 10 in my head before I could trust myself to speak. It's not a public park, Lily. You can't just barge in and make a mess. Lily snorted, finally looking up at me. What's your problem? It's not like I'm bothering anyone. Tom doesn't mind. That did it. Tom doesn't mind because he hates confrontations, but I do. This is our home, not your personal hangout spot. And why are you wearing my sweater? She looked down at herself as if noticing, for the first time. This? I just found it lying around. Thought it was Tom's or something. Right, because Tom really strikes me as the pastel sweater type. I shot back, the sarcasm heavy in my voice. Before I could launch into a tirade about respect and boundaries, the front door opened, and Tom walked in, looking as tired as I felt. His face lit up when he saw me, then fell just as quickly when he took in the scene before him. Hey, babe. What's going on? He hesitated, eyes darting between me and his sister. Ask your sister why she thinks it's okay to treat our house like her personal dumpster, I said, frustration bleeding into my words. Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. Lily, what have we talked about? Oh, come on, Tom. I'm just relaxing. Naomi's making a big deal out of nothing, Lily protested, finally turning the TV off and standing up, making no move to clean her mess. Tom looked at me, then at his sister, a silent battle of wills playing out. Lily, you gotta respect our space. And Naomi's stuff. It's not cool to just take things without asking. Lily rolled her eyes, muttering something under her breath before grabbing her bag. Fine, I'm out. Didn't realize this place was a freaking museum. As she stormed out, Tom and I were left standing in the silence of her wake, the tension thick. He moved to hug me, but I stepped back, my emotions a tangled mess. Tom, we need to talk. This can't keep happening. It's not just about your sister using our place like a hotel. It's about respect, and right now, I'm feeling a total lack of it. Tom's face fell, and he nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. You're right. I'll talk to her, Naomi. I promise. We'll set some boundaries. I don't want you feeling like this in our own home. The rest of the evening was spent in quiet contemplation, both of us knowing that a conversation with Lily was just a temporary fix. The real challenge was ensuring she understood the meaning of boundaries and respect. That fateful day I caught Lily red-handed, rifling through my personal belongings, marked a turning point. There she was, in my bedroom, drawers open, my stuff scattered all around her. My jaw dropped. What in the world do you think you're doing? I demanded, my voice echoing off the walls. Lily, nonchalant, barely glanced up. Just borrowing a few things. No big deal, she shrugged, as if she was doing nothing out of the ordinary. No big deal? Lily, that's my stuff. You can't just take whatever you want without asking. I shot back, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. She smirked, looking up with a defiance that took me aback. Come on, don't be so tight. It's not like you don't have plenty to spare, she retorted, her tone dripping with entitlement. I couldn't believe her audacity. It's not about having plenty, Lily. It's about respect, something you clearly know nothing about, I replied, my voice rising. She rolled her eyes, stuffing a scarf of mine into her bag, and shot back. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Chill out. The confrontation escalated quickly, and before I knew it, Lily had stormed out, muttering insults under her breath. The aftermath left me shaken, but little did I know, it was just the beginning. The next day, Lily's mom showed up at our door, furious. Without so much as a greeting, she launched into a tirade. How dare you accuse my daughter of stealing? You should be ashamed, hoarding all these things, while she has so little. I was taken aback. It's not about the things. It's about the principle. She can't just barge in and take what she wants. I tried to explain, but it fell on deaf ears. She's family, and family shares. You're just being greedy, she accused, her words stinging like salt in a wound. The situation worsened from there. My belongings continued to disappear, only to show up on social media, proudly displayed by Lily as if she'd acquired them through honest means. My frustration grew each day, culminating in the night she decided to bring her drunken party to our doorstep. The noise was unbearable, a cacophony of laughter and shouting that pierced the quiet of our home. Tom, usually the calm one, reached his breaking point. He stormed into the living room, confronting Lily and her rowdy friends. This is our home, not a bar. You need to leave. Now. He bellowed, the anger in his voice unmistakable. Lily, unfazed and clearly inebriated, laughed in his face. Oh, come on. We're just having a little fun. Don't be such a killjoy, she slurred, her friends echoing her laughter. Tom's face was a mask of fury. I'm not joking, Lily. Get out, or I'm calling the police, he threatened, his stance firm and unwavering. The laughter died down as the reality of the situation set in. With grumbles and complaints, Lily and her entourage finally vacated our home, leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. The lull lasted a couple of months, and then things took a nosedive into the bizarre. Dad, who's been a cop for as long as I can remember, decided to crash with us for a bit. That day, Lily, the family's personal whirlwind of chaos, showed up unannounced, claiming some urgent need to just grab a few things from upstairs. She darted through the house with a purpose, then vanished as quickly as she had appeared. Fast forward to the evening, and Dad's casual scrolling through his phone turned frantic. Alert after alert popped up, his bank account was hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks, his bank card was nowhere to be found. He was on the phone with the bank faster than you can say fraud, demanding they block his card immediately. No sooner had he hung up than my phone rang. It was Lily, sounding more sloshed than ever. "Hey, why'd you block the card? You're screwing up my night. How am I supposed to pay for my drinks?" I was floored. "Lily, are you out of your mind? You stole my dad's card, not mine. He's a cop, for crying out loud." Her response was a mix of disbelief and mockery, slurred but clear. "Oh, come on. Stop playing games. You're just trying to get me in trouble." By this time, Dad and Tom were both hovering over me, their faces a mix of anger and incredulity. Dad, always the calm one in a crisis, took the phone from me with a demeanor that could freeze fire. "Lily, this is John. You've got exactly one chance to make this right. Return the card and the money, or I promise you, you'll be facing more than just a hangover tomorrow." Her laughter echoed down the phone line, a clear sign she wasn't taking any of this seriously. "You guys are hilarious, really. Good night." With that, she hung up. Dad's face was set in stone as he dialed his colleagues at the station, briefing them on the situation with a precision and calmness that belied the storm brewing inside him. Tom paced the room. I sat, dumbfounded by the audacity of Lily's actions and the sheer gall she had to laugh it off. After the debacle with the stolen card, things escalated quickly. We found ourselves at the police station, a place I never imagined we'd be under such circumstances. My dad, still in his work mode, was all business, but I could see the disappointment etched deep in his face. Tom was beside me, a mix of anger and disbelief in his eyes. And there, looking like a deer caught in headlights, was Lily, cuffed and sobbing. "Please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen," Lily whimpered, her tough facade crumbled into a heap of regret. I just wanted some fun." Dad, usually the calm one, had his patience worn thin. "Fun? Is that what you call stealing? Putting your entire family through this mess?" Lily's mom, my mother-in-law, was next to her, tears streaming down her face, but with a fire in her eyes. "This is all just a big misunderstanding. My Lily wouldn't hurt a fly. You have to believe us." I was fuming, struggling to keep my composure. Misunderstanding? She stole from us, from her own family. How do you just brush that off? The room was charged with tension, each of us standing on a precipice of raw emotions. My father-in-law, a stern man who'd been silent up until now, finally spoke. "Enough," he said, his voice commanding the room's attention. "This ends now. Lily, you'll return what you took, and we'll sort out the mess you've made." My mother-in-law exploded. "You can't be serious. They're treating her like a criminal over some family misunderstanding." "That's because she is one," Tom finally said, his tone colder than I'd ever heard. "She broke the law. Being family doesn't give her a free pass to do whatever she pleases." The discussion went back and forth, with my father-in-law eventually stating that if Lily and her mother couldn't abide by the rules of decency and law, they'd have to find somewhere else to live. It was a bombshell that left everyone reeling. My mother-in-law was hysterical, Lily was a mix of tears and defiance, and there I stood, watching as the family I married into seemed to fracture before my eyes. After everything that went down, my father-in-law did right by us. He paid back every penny that Lily had blown through using Dad's card. Dad didn't push for charges against her. But that didn't mean things went back to how they were. Lily and her mom packed up and left, started a new chapter, you could say, in some cramped apartment living off what little the pension coughed up. Lily? She hasn't changed much, still jobless, still flaunting her so-called life on social media like it's something to be proud of. Tom and we had a sit-down about all this mess, once the dust settled. "Can you believe this? After all the drama, she's still at it," I said, scrolling through Lily's latest adventures online, a mix of disbelief and irritation churning in my gut. Tom, ever the rock, just shook his head. "Let her be, babe. We did what we could. It's on her now. Besides," Tom added, "we've got bigger and better things to plan. Like that big house you keep dreaming about." The determination in his voice was contagious. Absolutely. We focus on us, our dreams, the big house, maybe even start talking about kids? Kids, huh? Tom's eyes lit up at the mention. I think we're gonna make great parents. But let's promise to never let our kids turn into mini lilies. We laughed together, the sound a healing balm to the wounds of the past weeks. Deal. No mini tyrants allowed. I agreed. The next few days were a testament to our resolve. We cleaned, we planned, we dreamed. Our conversations were peppered with ideas for the future, interspersed with moments of reflection on what we'd gone through. I was thinking, I said one evening as we sat with cups of tea, maybe we should start a new tradition. Something that's just ours, to mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Tom nodded, thoughtful. I like that. What did you have in mind? Maybe a bike ride every month. Just the two of us, exploring new places, making new memories. He grinned, squeezing my hand. I love it. It's how we started, after all. It's perfect. As for Lily and her mom, life had taken them on a different path. They faced their own challenges, grappling with the consequences of their actions. From afar, I hoped they'd find their way, learn from their mistakes, and maybe, just maybe, find their own new beginning. I'm Lara, and life kinda threw me a curveball, but let's not jump ahead. Starting from the top, my folks ran this chain of repair shops. Dad was the brains, and Mom was the charm. When Dad passed, it was like the backbone of our family went with him. Mom decided to sell off the business, saying it was time to cash in and live a little. Can't blame her, really. She kept the big house, some cash for her golden years, and then dropped a bomb on me and Ava, my sister. We were each getting a cool $100,000. Ava, she's always been the wild one, eyes bigger than her stomach, dreams bigger than her wallet. Me? I was planning to stash half of that cash away, maybe start a small business, and have a decent wedding with Mark. Mark and I have been an item since college, the steady rock to my sometimes crazy waves. Then there was this one night, dinner at Mom's, the big house feeling emptier without Dad. That's when Ava, out of the blue, pitches this idea of going into business together. Lara, think about it, we could be unbeatable, Ava said, her eyes sparkling with that usual mix of excitement and madness. I shook my head, pushing my peas around the plate. Ava, you know I've got plans with Mark. We've talked about this. Mark, sitting beside me, nudged my arm. Babe, maybe it's not a bad idea. Ava's got a point. You two together could really make something happen. And she's your sister, she won't screw you over. Ava jumped in, seeing Mark's support as a green light. Exactly. Come on, Lara. It's now or never. We can make our old man proud, start something he'd wish he did. I looked between them, feeling like I was being cornered. But it was that look in Ava's eyes, damn it, that made me cave. It reminded me of when we were kids, plotting some mischief. Alright, but we do this by the book. No funny business, Ava. Scout's honor. She laughed, clearly never a scout in her life. A few days later, Ava comes around with these papers, all official looking, talking about some investment fund I'd never heard of. She's all giddy, saying we're about to hit the jackpot with the interest this fund's gonna pay out. Hold up, what? I thought we were talking about a physical business. A cafe or something, I said, flipping through the documents, not understanding half of it. Change of plans, Lara. This is way better. Trust me, we're gonna be rolling in it, Ava assured, her excitement not quite infectious this time. I felt my stomach twist. Ava, this isn't what we agreed on. I didn't say yes to gambling our money away on some fund. We don't even know who's behind it. Ava waved off my concerns like swatting a fly. Chill, sis. It's all legit. You'll thank me when we're sipping mojitos on our private beach. The days after Ava's bombshell about the investment were a blur. I felt like I was walking through a fog, each step heavier than the last. The shock of her unilateral decision to throw our money into some shady fund was slowly morphing into a cold, hard anger. I cornered her one evening at Mom's place, where we'd often meet up for dinner. The house still had that cozy, lived-in feel, but Dad's absence hung over us like a silent specter. "Ava, we need to talk about this fun thing," I said, my voice steady but with an edge sharp enough to cut. "What were you thinking?" Ava rolled her eyes, her defense already up. "Oh, come on, Lara. Don't start with me. It's done, okay? We're going to make bank. Just relax." "Relax?" I shot back, my calm facade cracking. "You took our money, my money, and dumped it into something I didn't agree to. How am I supposed to just relax?" Mark tried to step in, always the peacemaker. "Ladies, maybe we should just sit down and talk this through." "Stay out of this, Mark," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. This was between me and Ava, and I wasn't about to let him soften the blow. Ava leaned back, her arms crossed. "Look, Lara, it's done. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. But you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's an investment, not the end of the world." I could feel the vein in my forehead throbbing. Not the end of the world? That was my wedding money, Ava. Our father's legacy. And you gambled it away like it was nothing. "It's not gambling if it's a sure thing," she countered, but even she didn't seem convinced by her own words. Mom walked in then, sensing the tension. "What's all this yelling about?" Ava and I turned to her, our battle lines drawn. I explained the situation, trying to keep my voice level, but the betrayal I felt was hard to mask. Mom listened, her expression growing more troubled with each word. When I finished, she sighed, a deep, weary sound. "Ava, is this true?" Ava shrugged, a defensive smirk playing on her lips. "Yeah, so what? It's going to pay off, you'll see." Mom turned to me, her eyes soft with sympathy. "Lara, honey, I know you're upset, but let's not make a bigger mess. No police, please. We're a family. We can sort this out." I felt like screaming, running, anything to break free from the insanity of the situation. But looking at Mom, seeing the plea in her eyes, I deflated. "Fine, Mom. For you. But this? This isn't over." The ride home with Mark was silent, a thick, uncomfortable silence. He finally spoke up as we neared our apartment. "Lara, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Ava's made mistakes, sure, but she's your sister." I turned to him, my heart heavy. "Mark, she didn't just make a mistake. She betrayed me. And for what? A quick buck?" He reached over, taking my hand. "We'll figure this out, Lara. Together. Okay?" His words were meant to comfort, but they felt hollow. The air felt heavy, like before a storm, when Ava dropped the next bombshell that turned my world upside down, again. It was at one of our family dinners, supposed to be a regular thing, but nothing felt regular anymore. Ava waltzed in hand with Mark, my Mark. My jaw must have hit the floor because the room went silent, the kind of silence that screams. "Guess what, everyone?" Ava announced, her voice too cheery. "Mark and I are getting married." I blinked, thinking maybe I misheard, that this was some twisted joke. But no, there they were, grinning like two cats who'd got the cream. "Married?" I finally managed, my voice a mix of shock and disbelief. "Mark, what is this?" Mark wouldn't meet my eyes, his usual steady gaze darting around the room. "Lara, it's complicated." "I'm sorry, I didn't know how to." "Complicated?" I interrupted, feeling the anger boiling up from my toes. "You call this complicated?" Mom tried to step in, always the peacemaker. "Let's all just calm down and talk this through." "Talk this through?" I snapped, all my hurt spilling out. "How do you talk through betrayal?" Ava had the gall to look offended. "Betrayal? Really, Lara? I thought you'd be happy for us." Happy? That word felt foreign, bitter on my tongue. You steal my fiancé, my future, and you want me to be happy? Mark finally spoke up, his voice low. Lara, it wasn't like that. Things just happened. Just happened? I echoed, my heart in pieces. And what, Ava? Was this your plan all along? Use my money, then take my man? Ava's eyes flashed, defensive. It's not about the money, Lara. Mark and I, we have something real. Something real, I repeated, the words tasting like ash. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. I had to get out. I stormed out, leaving the chaos behind. The cold night didn't touch the burning rage and hurt inside me. In the following days, silence took over my apartment. Mark's things disappeared, and with them, the life I thought we'd have together. They moved away, but the pain stayed, a constant reminder of the double cross. Mom saw how broken I was and finally had a heart-to-heart with me. She was always the kind to look for peace, but even she had her limits. Lara, darling, I know it's hard. But holding on to this anger, it'll only hurt you more, she said softly, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. I just stared, too hurt to consider forgiveness. Then she dropped another bombshell, one I didn't see coming. I've decided to disinherit Ava. After all this, I can't. I'm leaving everything to you, the house, my savings. Everything. Ava and Mark, they'd chosen their path, and Mom had chosen hers, standing by me. It didn't make the betrayal any less painful, but it was a reminder that not everything was lost. I still had Mom, and in that moment, it was enough to start picking up the pieces. After the dust settled with Ava and Mark's betrayal, life felt like a series of motions, without emotion. But, as they say, time also heals, or at least it scabs over the wounds enough so you can start to move on. I threw myself into work, into renovating the big house Mom left me. It was during one of those long days, covered in paint and sawdust, that I met Ethan. He was a friend of a friend, showed up offering to help with some heavy lifting. I must have looked a mess, but Ethan, he just had this easy smile that made you want to smile back, even if you'd sworn off happiness. Need a hand with that? He asked, nodding towards a bulky piece of furniture I was eyeing like an enemy. I've got it, I said, stubborn as ever, but he just chuckled and stepped in anyway. Sure you do. And I'm the Queen of England, he joked, and despite myself, I laughed. It had been so long since I'd genuinely found something funny. Ethan was different. He wasn't trying to fix me, just there, making me laugh, lending a hand, and somehow, day by day, the house and my heart started to feel a bit lighter. We'd take breaks, sitting on the porch, drinking lemonade, and talking about everything and nothing. It was easy, uncomplicated, and slowly, I found myself looking forward to those moments. You know, Ethan said one day, I never thought I'd enjoy getting covered in paint this much. I glanced at him, splattered in various shades from our latest project. Well, you're in good company. I think I have more paint on me than the walls. One evening, as we were watching the sunset, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Ethan turned to me, his expression serious for once. Lara, he started, and I felt a catch in my breath. I know we've been, you know, casual friends. But I was wondering if maybe you'd like to, I don't know, see where this goes? My heart, which I thought was locked up tight, suddenly felt like it might beat right out of my chest. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the kindness, the warmth. And I realized, I did want to see where this could go. Yeah, Ethan, I'd like that, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but it was enough. Recovery, I learned, wasn't just about moving past the pain, it was about being open to new beginnings, even when you're terrified. Ethan taught me that. He showed me that it's okay to trust again, to love, even when your past tries to convince you otherwise. Mom's passing was a blow, another wave of grief, but this time I wasn't alone. Ethan was there, his support unwavering, as we navigated the loss together. The house, once a reminder of everything I'd lost, became a home filled with love and laughter, promises of a future I hadn't dared to imagine. I was sipping my morning coffee, Ethan reading the paper across the table, when I saw it. An email from a name I didn't recognize, subject line reading, "Investment opportunity awaits." Curiosity piqued, I clicked it open. The email was slick, filled with fancy terms and promising a hefty return on an investment I'd supposedly made 5 years ago. $390,000, it claimed, was sitting there waiting for me. All I had to do was claim it, or better yet, reinvest with them for an even bigger payout. My heart raced, thoughts of Ava and that disastrous investment flooding back. "Ethan," I said, my voice a mix of excitement and anxiety, "you've got to see this." He peered over, his brow furrowing as he read. "This looks odd. Do you remember investing in something like this?" Shaking my head, I replied, "It's got to be that thing Ava dragged me into. But we never heard anything back. I thought the money was gone for good." Ethan's face was a study in skepticism. "I don't know, Lara. This smells fishy. Have you heard from Ava?" "Not a word," I said, the mere mention of her name souring my mood. After everything, I doubt she'd be the one reaching out, especially like this. Ethan stood, pacing the kitchen. "We should be careful. This could be a scam. You said you never got any paperwork or saw any returns, right?" "Right," I confirmed, the initial excitement waning under his logical scrutiny. "What do you suggest?" "Let me do some digging," Ethan proposed, always the problem solver. "I've got a buddy who works in finance, he can look into this company, see if they're legit." Ethan spent the next few days on the phone, sending emails, and meeting with his finance friend. I tried not to hover, but the waiting was agony. Finally, he came home with news. "So, my friend did some digging. This company barely exists on paper. And the investment fund? No record of it actually making any payouts. It's a ghost, Lara," Ethan explained, a hint of anger in his tone. I felt a mix of disappointment and relief. "So, it's a scam." "Looks like it. But there's something else," Ethan added, hesitating. "My friend said these types of scams usually target people based on specific info. They knew exactly how to bait you, Lara. It's possible someone gave them your name, someone who knew about the investment." The implication hung in the air, heavy and unsaid. "Ava. But why? And why now?" I pondered, the question swirling in my mind. And then I realized everything. She found out about my savings, inherited from our mother. The weeks after Ethan decided to bring in a private detective were the longest of my life. Every day was like sitting on a bed of nails, waiting for any news that could explain the bizarre email and maybe shine a light on what Ava and Mark were up to. When we finally got the call to come in and discuss the findings, my stomach was in knots. The detective's office was one of those nondescript places, blending into the cityscape, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. Ethan squeezed my hand as we sat down across from the detective, a guy named Dan who looked like he'd seen it all twice over and then some. He had this calm way about him, but his eyes missed nothing. "So," Dan started, flipping open a folder. "Your sister and her husband have been busy." I braced myself, expecting bad news, but not ready for the depth of it. "They've been moving from state to state, leaving a trail of fraud scandals behind them. It's quite the rap sheet," Dan continued, his voice steady. My heart sank. Ava, involved in fraud? It was hard to wrap my head around. And Mark? The guy I thought I knew? It felt like a punch to the gut. Dan didn't pause, laying out the rest like cards on the table. "Right now, they're here, in your city. Your sister is posing as the owner of a large investment fund, drawing people in to invest in big projects." Ethan's grip on my hand tightened. "But it's all a front?" he asked, his voice hard. "Exactly," Dan confirmed. "She rented an office in a high-end business center, but it's all for show. Plans to collect as much as she can and then skip the country. They've already got visas and plane tickets." The room spun a little. Ava and Mark, planning to scam people out of their hard-earned money and then just flee? How could they have sunk so low? Ethan was the first to break the silence. Can we stop them? There's got to be a way to prevent this. Dan nodded, his expression serious. It's possible, but we'll need to act fast. Gather more evidence, maybe catch them in the act. It's risky, but it might be the only way to bring them down. I felt a mix of fear and determination. Ava was my sister, but the person Dan described? That was a stranger to me. And Mark? He was as good as a stranger now, too. We'll do it, I said, surprising even myself with the firmness in my voice. Whatever it takes. We can't let them hurt anyone else. D-Day felt like jumping off a cliff with nothing but hope that the water below wasn't too shallow. Ethan and I had laid all our cards on the table for the police, but Officer Daniel's plan still had me reeling. Undercover? Me? It sounded insane, yet here I was, strapped with a mic and a heart hammering so loud I was sure it could be heard across the room. The office of Ava's so-called investment company was a high-end affair, sleek and buzzing with activity. Walking in, I felt every eye on me, though most were probably just curious or too wrapped up in their own business to care. I approached a counter where a lady with a rehearsed smile greeted me. Welcome. How can we help you invest your future with us today? I cleared my throat, trying to sound confident. I'm here to look into investment opportunities. I've heard good things. I lied, feeling the weight of the hidden mic against my skin. Oh, wonderful. Let me show you our portfolio. We've seen remarkable returns this year, she chirped, sliding over glossy brochures filled with graphs that probably meant nothing. Nodding along, I played my part, signing up for a callback and expressing interest in attending their charity dinner. I'm considering a significant investment. I'll be more prepared to discuss this at the dinner, I said, laying the groundwork for the sting. The night of the charity dinner arrived, and Ethan and I blended into the sea of suits and sequins. Ava was there, radiant, making her rounds with Mark, my ex-fiancé, at her side. Her pregnant belly stood out thanks to the tight dress. Midway through the evening, amidst applause and self-congratulatory speeches, Ava took to the stage. She was a master at this game, weaving tales of success and prosperity. Then, her eyes found me in the crowd. And here, we have a living testament to our fund's success. My sister, everyone. She's seen incredible returns on her investments with us. The room's attention shifted to me, a collective expectation hanging in the air. I took the stage, my legs somehow carrying me to face the crowd. Thank you, Ava. I began, my voice steady thanks to countless rehearsals in front of Ethan. But, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. I paused, letting the tension build. 5 years ago, I learned a hard lesson about trust and deceit, courtesy of my sister and her partner. Whispers rippled through the room as I continued. They're not the financial geniuses they claim to be. They're con artists, and this fund is their latest scam. The silence was deafening. Then, chaos erupted as police officers entered, moving through the crowd with purpose. Ava's shock quickly turned to fury. You little snake, how could you? She spat, making a break for it, only to fall spectacularly, the prosthetic belly revealing its true nature as it slid awkwardly to the side. The crowd gasped, the spell finally broken. As Ava and Mark were taken into custody, the room buzzed with the realization of the truth. Ethan wrapped an arm around me, whispering, You did good, love. Really good. The dust finally settled after the sting operation, and the reality of Ava and Mark facing the music for their actions started to sink in. Ethan and I sat in our living room, the early morning light casting a soft glow over the chaos of the past few weeks. Ethan broke the silence, his voice a mix of exhaustion and relief. You know, I never doubted we'd pull through, but seeing it all go down was something else. I leaned against him, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. I know. It's like waking up from a bad dream, except it all actually happened. He kissed the top of my head, a gesture of comfort and solidarity. What matters is it's over. Ava and Mark will get what they deserve, and we can start to move on. The thought of moving on was daunting yet necessary. It's going to be strange, not having this looming over us. What do we do now? Ethan grinned, that mischievous twinkle in his eye I'd come to love. Well, for starters, we could take that vacation we've been talking about for ages. Get away from it all, just the two of us. I couldn't help but smile back. The idea of getting away, even for a little while, sounded like heaven. I think I'd like that. A lot. Our conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Officer Daniels, looking less like the stern policeman and more like a friend who'd been through the trenches with us. Got a minute? He asked, stepping inside. I thought you'd like to know, Ava and Mark's trial is set. With the evidence and your testimony, the DA's confident they'll be put away for a long time. The news brought a mix of emotions, but mainly a deep sense of closure. Thank you, Officer Daniels. For everything, I said, feeling a chapter of my life closing for good. He nodded, understanding the weight of his words. Just doing my job. You two take care of each other, all right? In the weeks that followed, Ava and Mark's trial came and went. They were convicted, their future now a stark contrast to the freedom they once took for granted. It was a bittersweet victory. Ava was still my sister, but the path she chose was hers alone. Ethan and I did take that vacation, finding solace in the quiet moments away from the world's noise. We talked about the future, about hope and healing, about building a life on the foundation of trust and love. The adventure we'd been through tested us in ways I never imagined, but it also showed me the strength we have together. Life's unpredictable, filled with challenges and unexpected turns, but facing them with Ethan by my side makes all the difference. It was a Thursday, I remember, 'cause Thursdays were spaghetti nights. Dad had this rule: every Thursday, without fail, we'd sit down to a plate of spaghetti. It was our thing, you know? But that Thursday was different. It was the day Mom left, and everything changed. Dad walked in, later than usual. I was already at the table, poking at my now-cold spaghetti, wondering why he was so late. The moment he stepped through the door, I knew something was off. His face was all red, like he'd been crying or something. Seeing Dad like that, it scared me. I'd never seen him cry before. Anna, he said, his voice all shaky. We need to talk. I remember feeling this knot in my stomach, like something real bad was about to happen. What's wrong, Dad? I asked, trying to sound brave, but my voice came out all squeaky. He didn't sit down. Instead, he paced back and forth, like he was trying to find the right words. Finally, he stopped and looked at me, his eyes all red and puffy. It's your mom, he said. She's not coming back. I didn't get it. Not coming back? From where? It was spaghetti night. Where else would she be? She left, Anna. She's gone. She left us for someone else. The words hit me like a truck. I felt this chill run down my spine. Gone, Mom? But, why? That was all I could muster. Dad's voice broke as he tried to explain. I don't know, kiddo. I don't understand it myself. But she made her choice, and we gotta deal with it. I was mad, you know? Mad and sad and a bunch of other things I couldn't quite name. Did she even say goodbye? Does she not love us anymore? Dad sat down next to me then, pulling me into a hug. I'm sure she loves you, Anna. But sometimes, people, they make choices that hurt others. It's not right, but it happens. I pushed him away, feeling this anger bubbling up inside me. Well, I hate her, I shouted, not really meaning it. Or maybe I did. I was so mixed up. Dad sighed, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I know, kiddo. It's okay to be mad. But we'll get through this. Together. The rest of the evening was a blur. I didn't eat my spaghetti. How could I? Spaghetti night was ruined, along with everything else. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Mom. Why would she leave? Didn't she care about us at all? Dad was hurting, I was hurting, and it felt like she just didn't give a damn. It was the first time I really understood that sometimes, people you trust can just break your heart. And as much as I wanted to hate her for what she did, part of me just wanted to understand. Why did she leave? Did she ever think about us? But those were questions for another time. For now, I just had to keep moving forward, one day at a time, with Dad by my side. Then Sarah came into our lives, kinda like a surprise plot twist you never saw coming, but ends up being the best part of the story. The day Dad told me about Sarah, I was skeptical. We were doing dishes, and he was all nervous, which was weird for him. "Anna, I've been seeing someone," he blurted out, almost dropping a plate. I froze, soap suds dripping from my hand. "What? Who?" I wasn't sure whether to feel angry or curious. "Her name's Sarah. She's really wonderful, Anna. I think you'll like her," he said, avoiding my gaze. I didn't say much. Just nodded and kept on with the dishes. But inside, I was a whirlwind of thoughts. Another woman? Was she trying to replace Mom? I wasn't ready for that. The first time I met Sarah, I had my defenses up. She came over for dinner, and I could tell she was nervous, which made me feel a bit better. She wasn't acting all cocky like she owned the place. "Hi, Anna. I've heard so much about you," she said, offering a smile that seemed genuinely warm. "Yes? All good things, I hope," I replied, trying to sound tough, but probably just coming off as awkward. We sat down to eat, and the conversation was kinda stilted at first. Dad kept trying to fill the silence, bless him. But then, Sarah started talking about this band she loved, which turned out to be one of my favorites too. That broke the ice, and before I knew it, we were chatting like old friends. It didn't take long for Sarah to become a fixture in our lives. She moved in a few months later, and things, they just felt right, you know? Like she was meant to be part of our family. One day, after Sarah had moved in, I came home fuming from school. Some kids had been making fun of me for not having a mom, and I'd had enough. I slammed the door and threw my backpack against the wall. Sarah came rushing in, all concerned. "What's wrong, Anna?" she asked, kneeling to be on my level. "Nothing. Just leave me alone," I snapped, not really meaning it. I was just so mad. Sarah didn't budge. "It doesn't look like nothing. Wanna talk about it?" I hesitated, then blurted out everything about the kids at school, about missing Mom, about feeling so damn angry all the time. Sarah just listened, her expression soft. When I was done, she hugged me. Not in a trying to replace your mom way, but in a I'm here for you no matter what way. That meant the world to me. "Anna, I'll never try to take your mom's place. But I want you to know I'm here for you, okay? As a friend, as family. Whatever you need." I nodded, wiping away tears. "Thanks, Sarah." From then on, Sarah wasn't just Dad's girlfriend or the woman living with us. She was part of our family. She helped me with homework, listened to my teenage rants, and even taught me how to apply eyeliner properly. She filled our home with laughter and love, something I hadn't realized how much I'd missed until she showed up. One evening, we were all watching a movie, and I looked over at Sarah and Dad, laughing together on the couch. It hit me then how much things had changed, how much better they'd gotten. "Thanks, Sarah," I whispered, not sure if she heard me. "For what?" she whispered back, turning to me with a smile. "For everything," I said, meaning every word. Sarah just squeezed my hand and turned back to the movie. But that moment, that simple exchange, it sealed the deal for me. Sarah was family, through and through. College was a whole new world for me. Moved out, living on campus, studying economics because, well, it seemed like a solid choice. I'd call Dad and Sarah every Sunday, filling them in on the mundane and the exciting alike. They were my rock, my safety net in this whirlwind of new experiences. One evening, I was cramming for midterms with my roommate, Jenna, when my phone rang. Seeing Dad's ID, I figured it was their usual check-in. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" I answered, trying to keep the stress out of my voice. But it wasn't Dad. It was Sarah, and her voice was all wrong. "Anna, you need to come home. It's your dad. He had a heart attack." My world stopped. "What? Is he okay? Tell me he's okay, Sarah." She was silent for a moment too long. "He didn't make it, Anna." "I'm so sorry." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Jenna looked up, her face full of concern as she caught the tail end of the conversation. "Dad's gone," I managed to choke out before everything went blurry. The next few days were a blur of tears, travel, and terrible coffee. The funeral felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Dad was gone. Just like that. No warnings, no goodbyes. After, when the crowds of sympathetic faces had dwindled, Sarah and I found ourselves sitting in the living room, surrounded by the silence of the house. "I can't believe he's gone," I whispered, the words feeling like lead on my tongue. Sarah wrapped an arm around me. "I know, kiddo. I know. It's going to be tough, but we'll get through this. Together." "How, Sarah? How do we do this without him?" The tears were coming again, a relentless tide. "We remember him. We keep living, because that's what he would have wanted. And we take care of each other." It was tough, going back to college. Part of me wanted to drop out, come home, and never leave Sarah alone in that big, empty house. But another part of me knew that was the last thing Dad would have wanted. "Go back, Anna," Sarah had said when I broached the subject. "Finish what you started. Make your dad proud." "But what about you?" I asked, feeling torn. "I'll be fine. And I'll be here when you come back. Always." So, I went back. Jenna, bless her, had turned our dorm room into a fortress of comfort by the time I returned. She didn't say much, just hugged me tight and let me be. It was exactly what I needed. Classes were a struggle. My concentration was shot, my motivation at an all-time low. I remember sitting in a lecture, staring blankly at the professor, words washing over me like a foreign language. After class, my professor, Dr. Henderson, pulled me aside. "Anna, is everything all right? Your participation has dropped significantly." I shrugged, the weight of grief making it hard to articulate my feelings. "It's my dad. He passed away." Dr. Henderson's expression softened. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Anna. If you need anything, any extensions, or just someone to talk to, my door is always open." "Thanks," I mumbled, grateful, but too numb to really feel it. That's how it went for a while. Going through the motions, barely keeping my head above water. But slowly, with a lot of support from Sarah, Jenna, and even Dr. Henderson, things started to get a bit easier. Not better, exactly, but less impossible. By the end of the semester, I'd managed to pull my grades up, securing a decent GPA. It felt like a hollow victory, though, without Dad there to celebrate with me. But I knew he was proud, somewhere, somehow. And that thought, that feeling, gave me the strength to keep going, to face whatever came next. With Sarah by my side and Dad's memory in my heart, I started to believe maybe, just maybe, I could make it through. The time flew by, and there I was, 27, living in my own space, neck deep in a career that was actually going somewhere. Bosses liked me, work was steady, and for once, it felt like I had a handle on things. It was one of those rare Saturdays where I had nothing planned but to chill, maybe binge-watch something mindless. That was until the doorbell rang, slicing through my lazy morning like a sharp knife. I wasn't expecting anyone. Figured maybe it was a package I forgot ordering or a neighbor about to start some small talk I wasn't in the mood for. When I swung the door open, though, the last person I expected was standing there. My mom. Except, she looked different. Years and hard living had taken their toll, leaving her looking worn and, frankly, a bit rough around the edges. "What are you doing here?" I blurted out, not hiding my shock well. Her eyes welled up, and she looked like she was about to crumble right there. I wanted to see you, Anna. It's been too long. Too long was an understatement. Years of silence, and suddenly she pops up? Mixed feelings were an understatement. Why now, after all this time? My voice had an edge, and I wasn't about to soften it for her sake. She wiped at her eyes, taking a shaky breath. I've always wanted to fix things between us. Your dad and Sarah, they wouldn't let me get close. That made me frown. Come on, you expect me to buy that? Why didn't you reach out when I turned 18? I wasn't under their thumb then. Her excuse was ready, rehearsed maybe. I was sick, Anna. Really sick. It took me a long time to get better. And when I finally did, I knew I had to try to connect with you, no matter how late it was. The conversation was like wading through mud, awkward and messy. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but another part, a part one wasn't ready to admit existed, wanted to hear her out. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe something else. We talked, if you could call it that. More like danced around the years of silence, each of us tiptoeing around the minefield that was our relationship. Then, without warning, she said she had to go. Just like that, she turned and left, leaving me with a storm of thoughts and not a single answer that made sense. The door clicked shut behind her, and I was left standing there, feeling a weird mix of anger, sadness, and a dozen other things I couldn't put a name to. She had her chance to explain, and all I got were excuses. Still, her visit cracked something open, something I thought I had buried a long time ago. After Mom's unexpected drop-in, my head was a mess, buzzing with a million thoughts and not one clear answer. I needed some grounding, some clarity. There was only one person who could offer that, Sarah. So, I found myself driving over to her place, the one she'd moved into after Dad passed. It was a cozy little house, filled with warmth and memories, a stark contrast to the confusion I was feeling. I knocked on the door, and Sarah answered with her usual welcoming smile. But it faltered a bit when she saw my face. Anna, what's wrong? She asked, ushering me in. I didn't even know where to start. Mom showed up at my place today. I blurted out as soon as we sat down in her living room, a cup of tea in front of each of us. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. Your mom? After all these years? Yes, and she had a lot to say. Mostly excuses. I took a sip of my tea, finding it hard to look at her. What did she say? Sarah's voice was calm, but I could tell she was bracing herself. She claimed that you and Dad kept her away from me. That she was sick and couldn't reach out until now. The words felt bitter, recounting Mom's version of events. Sarah shook her head, a look of disbelief crossing her face. Anna, that's not true. You know that. Your dad and I never stopped her from reaching out to you. She made her choices. I knew that, deep down, but hearing Mom's story had stirred up doubts. I guess part of me wanted to believe there was a good reason for her leaving. Sarah reached over, squeezing my hand. It's natural to want to find some good in her reasons, but you can't let her rewrite the past. You know what happened? Yeah, I do. I sighed, feeling a bit foolish. She also said she was sick. We never knew if she was, Sarah said gently. But even if she was, it doesn't change the years of silence, Anna. It doesn't excuse everything. The clarity I was seeking started to seep through the fog of emotions. Sarah always had that effect, a way of making things make sense. She also mentioned wanting to start over, to have some sort of relationship. Sarah's expression turned cautious. Anna, people don't change overnight. If you decide to let her back into your life, be careful. Protect yourself. Her words were a warning, a reminder of the pain that had taken so long to heal. I don't even know if I want her in my life. Today, just, through me. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. Just, remember who she was and who she's been all these years. Sarah's advice was like a lighthouse, guiding me through stormy seas. I will. Thanks, Sarah. I meant it. Her perspective was invaluable, a tether to reality when I felt adrift. After Mom started dropping by more often, it was kinda nice at first, catching up, feeling out this whole mother-daughter vibe we'd never really had. But then, the vibe shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't just coffee and chit-chat. She started hinting at needing cash, first for this doctor's bill, then for that rehab thing she said was for her illness recovery. Each time, laying it on thick with the lovey-dovey stuff, something I wasn't used to from her. Despite Sarah's earlier warnings ringing in my ears, I found myself unable to say no. Maybe it was the guilt, or maybe I was just starved for that maternal affection I'd missed out on. But then she hit me with a real doozy. Out of the blue, she's like, "I found this perfect apartment right next to yours. Wouldn't it be great to be neighbors?" And I'm thinking, sure, sounds nice, until she drops the bombshell. She wants me to foot the bill. The whole year's rent, up front, adding up to a cool 24 grand. I choked on my coffee. You what? That's a lot of money, Mom. She didn't miss a beat, playing the hurt card like a pro. I thought you'd want to help your mother out, she said, all wounded like. I do, but it's a lot. I need to think about it. I managed to stammer out, feeling like I'd just been sucker punched. Well, she didn't like that one bit, got all huffy, and stormed out. So there I am, feeling like the worst daughter in history for not immediately opening my wallet. I needed advice, someone with no skin in the game. Naturally, I called Sarah. Hey. I started, no preamble. Mom asked me to pay a year's rent for her. $24K, what do I do? Sarah's response was instant, a mix of concern and anger. Anna, you can't be serious. After everything, you're considering it? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know, Sarah. She's my mom. She's also the woman who left you and your dad high and dry. You owe her nothing. Sarah shot back, her voice sharp as a tack. Her words stung, but I knew she was right. Still, something in me couldn't shake the idea of finally having a real relationship with my mom, even if it meant buying it. Against my better judgment, I went ahead and agreed to Mom's request. But I wasn't completely naive. I made sure my name was on the lease, a little insurance policy just in case things went south. When I told Sarah what I'd done, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Anna, I hope you know what you're doing, she finally said, her voice heavy with unspoken worries. Yes, me too, I replied, though in truth, I had no idea what I was doing. But there was no turning back now. I'd made my choice, and all I could do was hope it wouldn't come back to bite me. A week after the whole apartment thing with Mom, I figured, maybe we could try to smooth things over with a little celebration. I thought a surprise housewarming might show her I was trying to make an effort, bridge the gap between us. So, there I was, standing outside her door, ready to surprise her, when I caught a snippet of conversation that froze me in my tracks. There was my mom, loud and clear, boasting to a room full of her new buddies about how she'd played me for a fool. Can you believe it? Got my own daughter to pay for this place for a whole year. She's as stupid as they come, just like her old man was. She cackled. My heart sank. I felt this cold rush of disbelief and then hot anger bubbling up. But I pushed the door open and stepped inside before I could second-guess myself. The scene was exactly as I'd imagined, a bunch of drunken strangers cluttering up the living room, with my mom holding court among them. The laughter died down as every eye turned to me, the sucker of the hour. For a moment, Mom looked caught off guard, a flicker of guilt maybe, but it was gone as quick as it came. Then, doubling down, she sneered. Look who decided to show up. Come to see what your generosity bought? Her friend snickered, eyeing me like I was some kind of joke. The anger inside me was boiling over, but I kept my cool. Smiling, I said, actually, I came to tell you something interesting. About the rent for this place. Mom smirked, playing to her audience. Oh yeah? What's that? I pulled out the rental agreement I'd kept, waving it like a flag of victory. See, I only paid for a month. Not a year. You could have heard a pin drop. Mom's face went white, her smirk vanishing as she realized the game was up. Her friends, sensing the shift, started to back away, their laughter turning to murmurs of confusion. I didn't wait for her to recover, to spit out some excuse or plea. I just turned on my heel and walked out, leaving her to her mess, both literal and metaphorical. As I walked away, her outraged screams followed me, but they didn't touch me. Not anymore. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd finally shaken off a weight I'd been carrying without even realizing it. After the whole mess with the apartment and catching Mom in her true colors, I went straight to Sarah's. Needed someone who could make sense of this circus. Before I could even get a word in, Mom shows up out of nowhere, all fire and brimstone, threatening to sue me for every penny I had. Wanted me to support her for life, as if the years of neglect could just be erased with a paycheck. Sarah, she just laughed. Not a happy laugh, but one of those I can't believe this laughs. You're gonna sue? Really? She wasn't even mad, just amazed at the audacity. Mom was on a tear, shouting about rights and money until Sarah, cool as ever, pulled out this stack of papers from a drawer. You mean these rights? She says, waving the documents that spelled out how Mom had ditched her parental duties ages ago. Mom's face when she saw those papers? It was like someone had flipped a switch. From fiery to deflated in a second flat. Fast forward 2 weeks, and word gets around that Mom's been kicked out of the apartment. Apparently, she tried to pull a fast one, refusing to leave, and they had to call the cops to drag her out. She showed up at my place next, pounding on the door, making all sorts of threats and pleas through the wood. But I was done. Completely over it. I yelled back, clear enough so she'd hear. Knock it off, or I'm calling the cops. Guess that got through to her because she took off. Haven't seen hide nor hair of her since. Sitting there, after she'd scampered away, it hit me. I was finally free. Not just from her threats and manipulations, but from the weight of her expectations, her disappointments. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe easy,